Hi, my name is Bob Brooks. As host of a radio show, I get to talk about a lot of different topics. And one of my favorite consumer topics to talk about is how to get a fair deal on a car and talking about the tips that and things that you need to know. Because here's the reality of it is that people waste a lot of money buying and selling cars, not getting a fair price, not getting a fair trade-in value. And the information I'm going to share with you today, once you learn that, this will help you to get a fair price. I'm just going to go through a lot of different tips today and things that I've discovered through the years, and I'm going to share that with you. First of all, you got to know that you have to get in the right mindset. Now, there's a tendency to rush the process, and there's a tendency to make it into an emotional process. And a lot of times people think, well, I want to replace my car. I want to get a new car. So they go to the dealership. They get into the car. They start getting attached to it. They start thinking about, well, this would be great if I own this. And the next thing you know, they're making a bad deal. They haven't even gone through the process because it is a process. And you have to put some of these things I'm talking about today in place to protect yourself from the emotion that can go into the car buying process. Now, what car dealers will focus you on is it's all about the payment. They'll talk about the payment because they know if they can come up with a payment you can afford, you're more than likely going to do the deal. But they're not telling you what the interest rate is. They're not telling you what the bottom line price on the car. You want to focus on what the price of the car is before you start thinking about the payment so that you know that you have a fair price. Now, let's start with determine the age of your future car because there's all types of cars that you can buy. There's all types of conditions that you can buy those cars in. Depreciation is a killer. And this goes along with buying a brand new car straight off the lot. Because here's the reality is that you buy the car, you drive it off the lot, and you probably know this. If you took that car back and tried to sell it back to the dealer, you wouldn't get what you paid for. You get automatic depreciation once you drive that car off the lot. So you've got to know that is if you're buying a brand new car. If you're one of those that goes through cars maybe every 3 or 4 years, kind of a high turnover, buying a brand new car is probably not a good idea. Now, if you're one of those that says, I'm going to put 150, 200,000 miles on this car, then buying a brand new car maybe not be such a bad idea because you're going to really get full use out of it. And I think if you're going to own a car and put that many miles on a car, you want to know what the condition of that car was from day one and that you put the maintenance into it. Gently pre-owned. This is probably my favorite category of car. It's the car that's maybe 1-2 years old that has the low mileage on it. A lot of times you'll see this at dealerships that have loan cars that they've used for customers as customers bring cars in for service, and there's put that loan car back into inventory and sell it. Now this is a car that might have 2,000 or 3,000 miles on it, and the thing about the gently pre-owned is that you don't have to deal with the depreciation. The depreciation should already be built into the price. Car with some work history. Now, this is a high mileage car. Now, a lot of times people will shy away from high mileage cars because they just think, here comes the problems. But a high mileage car that has all of the maintenance records, and so you know exactly when the car had an oil change, when the car had a service, and this was done regularly on schedule, then you've had a car that's been well maintained and probably will last another 100 to 150,000 miles. So don't shy away from the high mileage car, but only if you know exactly the type of maintenance schedule it's been on. And then car with a dented Carfax. And what I mean by that, well, first let me say what a Carfax is. A Carfax is a report that you can pull on any type of a car, any car, and it tells you the history of that car, how many owners, if it's been in a wreck. So typically what people will do is they'll pull a Carfax on a car that they're looking at, and they'll see it's been wrecked, or it's been in a wreck, or any kind of an altercation, and they'll say, well, I'm going to shy away from that because it's been in a wreck. Don't shy away. This is where you want to start doing some investigation because the car dealer, they also got a discount on that car when they bought that because of that Carfax, and they know that they're going to have to give a discount on that car when they sell it. So it could be that the bumper had to be replaced. It could be that it was some cosmetic and it was repaired great, you can't tell. So nothing is really wrong with the car except it's carrying around that bad Carfax, but you can get a much better deal for a car like that. Now, the important thing that you got to do, and this is where most people don't go through the process, is to do your homework. First place that you want to look is Kelley Blue Book or the NADA. Kelley Blue Book is kbb.com. You go to the site, and it's going to give you trade-in value. It's going to give you retail value, all different types of values based on the condition. So you kind of have a ballpark of what the real value of the car is. But where you really get your good information is going to a site like autotrader.com or cars.com, where you can actually put into a search. These sites have all kinds of cars for sale on them all over the country. So you can put in a search to look for a particular car, brand, model, how many miles that you want, and you can get a price range of that particular car that you want all over the country. So let's say that you're looking at a Honda, and you do all the input, and it comes out that's $32,000 to $35,000. So the lowest being 32, and the highest price that you found is 35. So a fair deal in there would be somewhere I would look for anything about 33,500 and under, closer to 32. And keep in mind, the 32 is still negotiable. That's just their listed price. But establish a range, because if you have that range, you know that you're getting a good deal or you're not getting a good deal. Get pre-qualified before you go to the dealership. This is a mistake I see people make all of the time. I had a friend one time tell me that he just had bought a car, and I said, what, and I knew he had good credit. So I said, what kind of interest rate did you get? And he said, well, I got 4.75. I thought that was kind of high, but they said my credit wasn't as good as I thought it was. And so that was the rate they gave me. Well, if he would have gotten pre-qualified, he would have gotten a 1.99% interest rate. Now, that's a big difference between 4.75 and 1.99%. Because here's the thing. Once you get into that finance office, the second round of the sales process, if you've ever been in a finance office in a car dealership, they're going to evaluate your credit. They're going to go out to their lenders and see who's going to pick up the loan. And you got to know that there's a lot of people getting paid in there. So that interest rate's going to be higher. Rarely are you going to get the same rate. Now, you might get lucky and tell them that, hey, I'm already pre-qualified. You're welcome to match that rate. And if they can match it, that's perfect. But the bottom line is you're going to get a better rate outside of a dealership than inside of a dealership. Now, dealership versus individual seller. I've done both, and I got to tell you, after going through the process of selling a car, I don't know that I'll do it again. Now, your chances of getting a lower price from an individual are probably a little bit better than at a dealership. But you have to do all the legwork. You have to show the car. You have to pay for the taxes. You got to decide, is it really worth the savings that I would get by buying from an individual versus going through a dealership where it's turnkey? So that's something else to consider. Now, starting the search. Most people start the search by walking into a dealership. Not the best way to start a search, because you can look at the inventory of the dealership online and you can see exactly the cars that you're interested in. Start the search on the phone. Call up, establish a relationship with a salesperson, get your questions answered. You've seen the car online, so if everything they tells you checks out in person, start the negotiation. Start talking to 2 or 3 dealerships. Talk to them about price and what kind of a deal they can give you. If they don't get to the level of price that you want, say, hey, listen, I enjoyed talking to you, but I don't think we're going to be able to do business. Hang up. I'm sure they'll call back. But you do this with 2 or 3 dealerships. You establish a price, and you tell them, listen, if this price and this car, everything is the way it's supposed to be, we'll do the deal when I come and see the car. Don't shy away from an out-of-towner. Now, the great thing about having an autotrader.com or a cars.com is that you can see cars all over the country. So you're looking at different parts of the country. You find a car, you find a good price on that car. Don't shy away from going through the process long distance. Now, you can always have somebody check the car out, another dealership, and they can tell you any blemish on it, any problem, and you can get it checked out that way. Chances are that car is going to be delivered to you in good condition, just like you expect. Now, I will tell you one story of someone that bought a car in Illinois, and he happened to be going up to near that city on business, so he just took a rent car, drove over to go check out this car that he'd been looking at. And he thought it was a little bit unusual that they waited 20 to 30 minutes before bringing the car out, but they finally brought the car out. He got in. He noticed that there was kind of a smell to the car, but it wasn't bad or anything. And so he decided, I'm gonna definitely do this deal. So he's waiting on the car. The truck pulls up. The car goes off the ramp. He opens the door and gets just hit in the face with cigar smoke. Now, I don't know if you've ever been in a car that cigar smoke is pretty heavy, a pretty heavy odor and really tough to get out. So you got to know there's some things that can happen and go wrong, but for the most part, if it's a credible dealership, that process can work and you can get a good deal going that route. Now, negotiating the price. Focus on a fair, you've heard me talk about a fair price, not a deal. Because here is the reality of it. You can get a deal, a great deal on a car. They're out there. But you've got to be very lucky. You've got to be in the right place at the right time, and you've got to catch that dealership at a point to where they are ready to get rid of that car. It's been there for a long time, and they're ready to sell it. And it's tough to find that. And you could burn a lot of time trying to find that good deal and find out that it wasn't really worth trying to get the good deal. So what you're wanting to get is a fair price. That's what this whole teaching course is about, is establishing, not overpaying for a car, but getting a fair price. I mean, the dealership's got to make a profit. There's got to be commissions made. And so you're looking for that fair price, not a deal. There's a dealership here in Dallas, and I would watch some of their listings every once in a while. When they would get a car in, they would ask out this outrageous price for it. But as that car sat on that lot and the time passed, you would see that price drastically go down and go down. And somebody's going to catch that dealer at the right moment where, who knows what that line in the sand is, they got to get rid of the car. But they're going to get just a great deal on that car. End of the month buying. This is one of my favorite tips, because what most people don't know is that dealerships have a quota. They've got to sell a certain amount of cars. And if they get to the end of the month and they're behind that, then it comes a little bit more about selling a car and getting rid of a car just for the number's sake than more so in the price. So try to plan your car buying at the end of the month, because you might catch a dealership that is really ready to deal because they're trying to make their numbers. I remember one time my wife decided, much to my dismay, that she wanted a minivan because we had two small kids. And so I reluctantly went to the dealership, and it would happen to be on a Friday at 6:30 at the end of the month. And I didn't plan this out. It just happened to be that way. But I learned in watching this car dealer and the salespeople and the sales manager, they were really motivated to sell this car. And it was one of the easiest negotiations I think I've ever had. And they kept coming down on the price, and they threw window tint in and all kinds of things in. And the whole idea was, we got to get this car sold today. And every time someone would sell a car, it was like everybody's celebrating because they're getting closer to their number. So end of the month buying, take advantage of that. Now, the economy matters. And at least today in this country, it's interesting because if you lived in Dallas-Fort Worth, you would see a booming economy. And you're probably not going to get as good a deal or as fair a deal on a car here as you would, let's say, in Illinois, where the economy is struggling, and they're probably more willing to deal because they got to sell inventory. So think about that in your car search. I had a client come to me, and I do this for clients every once in a while. They'll come to me and they'll say, hey, can you negotiate a car deal for me? And I'll say, absolutely, or help them find a car and negotiate the price. And so he was looking for this specialty car. They only made a limited number. So I knew we were going to have to look all over the country. So I focused in on California because at the time, this was right after the financial crisis, and I knew California was in a tough place. And so I happened to locate a car, and sure enough, they had this car as a specialty car. They wanted to get it off their inventory, and they were ready to deal. So always check weaker parts of the country for good deals on cars. How long in inventory? I've kind of alluded to this a little bit. Now, on the Carfax, you can see when the car was delivered and went for sale in inventory at the car dealership. And so the longer that car is in inventory, the more likely they are willing to deal, because it comes to a point to where it continues to cost them money to keep that car in inventory. So the longer it's on there, they're wanting to deal. And, if a car has just gotten into inventory, probably not really willing to deal. So check for cars that have been in inventory longer. I've already mentioned this Carfax. You'd be crazy to buy a car without getting the car's history. In fact, on autotrader.com, you can pull a lot of cars, you can pull them for free to see exactly what they have been through, how many owners have actually had the car, and you can start to tell a lot about the history of that car by just reading the details. Maintenance records, I've already kind of alluded to this too. This is a huge value and benefit when buying a car. If you can find a car that has all the maintenance records intact, then you know that car's been taken care of. One of the problems that keeping a car long term is that people don't always get the oil changed, don't always get the tune-ups when they're supposed to, the services, and that has longer term effects on that car. You may not see them during the time that you own it, but you don't want to end up inheriting those problems. So maintenance records are really important to check to make sure that that car has been well maintained. The warranty, that's going to affect the price too. Now, I'm a big warranty guy. I like to have my car under warranty, and I'm willing to pay a little bit more for that, but that's obviously going to affect the car. Another thing that you want to do, you want to get that car inspected. This is extremely important because I don't know about you, I can't look at a car and look at the lines of the body and say, boy, that looks like it's been in a wreck, or that looks like that was a problem. I don't have that kind of expertise, but I want somebody who does to check out that car and say, you know what, everything looks great on this car, you're getting a good value for this car, and I'd buy it. I want to get that A-OK before I go forward, so make sure you get the car inspected. Now, you're looking for signs that there has been previous problems. Now, I've already mentioned this one story about the smells and odors. Be particularly sensitive to this, because if a car dealership really wanted to, they could momentarily cover up an odor, but it does come back. So you want to look for that. Something else too that you want to look for is flood damage. Here in Texas this year, we had a lot of flooding, and what has happened is that these cars that have been in flood situations are making their way to the Metroplex here in Dallas, and they're showing up on car lots. And here's the problem with flood damage: is that car could have been repaired, all the flood damage, the look of the flood damage gone, and that will not show up on a Carfax. So you really have to have a trained eye to look for where maybe seats have been replaced, where carpet has been replaced. That should be a big red flag, because here's the problem: is that water a car getting into a flooded situation, that has long-term effects on the engine and the maintenance of the car. So you want to make sure you're not getting that type of a situation. The finance office. Now, I always call this the second sales process, because you've been in a finance office before. They're going to offer you everything from dent repair to extended warranties to new tire and a warranty on the tires and the wheels. You name it, they have something they can sell you, and you could rack up $2,000 or $3,000. Now, I'm not going to say don't ever buy any of those things, because it's all personal preference. There's some things, and especially if the dealership is willing to negotiate down on some of these warranties, could be a good deal. But the problem is we go into a finance office. We've already been through this exhausting sales process. I don't know about you, but that exhausts me. You get in there, and now they're hitting you with more decisions to make, more things to look at, more things to consider, and it feels like, because in most cases it is, that this is a one-time shot. You can't go back. We've got to get it done today, so you have to make a decision. If you know that you're going to be going through the process, a day before, call the finance office and talk to them. Say, hey, listen, what kind of warranties and packages do you have available? Get the names of them, then do a thorough internet search. Because if they're a bad deal, you're going to figure that out pretty quick. But this way you go in prepared with the information. Extended warranties. Some people like them, some people don't. I always suggest that not to get the extended warranty if you still have warranty left, and consider getting warranty from a third-party warranty company when your warranty runs out. Now, you got to be careful. There's some really good third warranty companies, and there's some that really aren't very good. But I feel like you get a better deal if you go that route on the extended warranty. Now, you're in the sales office, the finance office, excuse me, and you're going through all these products, and you say, well, okay, I'm going to do the extended service to where all my services are paid for, and that includes one free battery, that includes this benefit. The thing is, if you don't take notes, you're going to walk right out of there and forget that what you have coming to you. I remember one time that this was just recently. They were giving a deal on tire warranty, and so I took my car in for service, and come to find out they replaced a tire because it had a nail in it. And I hate to admit to this, I probably would have gone to Discount Tire or someplace like that and had the tire replaced because I forgot that I had the tire warranty. So take detailed notes. That one's from experience. Emotion. This is the reason we pay more than we should. All the things that I've talked about today are all about containing the emotion so that you go through a good process and getting a fair deal. As I said at the beginning, I see people waste a lot of money, and this is wasting big money. Cars are probably the second biggest thing that we spend money on besides a house. And we want to make sure that we're being a good, wise consumer and getting a fair deal.